Are you looking for the best Wi-Fi routers? In this video we will look at some of the 5 best Wi-Fi routers on the market. Before we get started with our video, we have included links in the description. So make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range. Number 1. TPLink Archer B800. The TPLink Archer B800 was one of the first Wi-Fi 7 routers released, but it feels like one of the most complete. TP-Link has left Gigabit Ethernet in the past with two 10 gigabits per second Ethernet ports, and 4 2.5 gigabits per second ports, which is perfect for a house with multiple online gamers. Notably, one of the 10 gigabits per second ports can be used with either RJ45 Ethernet or fiber optic compatible SFP+. On the wireless side, the tri-band B19000 connection breaks down to 1376 megabits per second at 2.4 GHz, 5760 megabits per second at 5 GHz, and 11,520 megabits per second at 6 GHz. It's worth noting that you can use multi-link operation (MLO) on some Wi-Fi 7 devices to use both bands at once. This router has 8 internal antennas, which provide a strong signal. In our review, we noticed that coverage was strong, with impressive 5 GHz and 6 GHz speeds on Wi-Fi 7. If you still need more coverage, Easy Mesh expansion is supported, so you can add another B800 or a cheaper compatible router. Like most Archer routers, the best bet for first-time setup is the Tether app. You can also connect to the router using a web browser to access more advanced settings. With its relatively low price, the TP-Link Archer B800 is a great router for trying out Wi-Fi 7. Number 2. TP-Link Archer B550. While many router manufacturers pursue the fastest speeds possible, TP-Link kept things modest with the Archer B550. This router is by no means slow with a tri-band B9300 connection. This setup is a little top-heavy with 5760 megabits per second at 6 GHz, 2880 megabits per second at 5 GHz, and 574 megabits per second at 2.4 GHz. If you have a lot of data-hungry 5 GHz devices in your house, that 5 GHz capacity could be a limiting factor, but if you're moving as much of your tech over to 6 GHz as possible, there's plenty of bandwidth. The 2.4 GHz band uses Wi-Fi 6. You also get 5 2.5 gigabits per second wired Ethernet ports. If you have internet speeds over 1 gigabit per second or high-speed network storage, this router can handle it. Compared to the above Archer B800, the internal antennas are reduced to 6, and there's no front display. The housing is largely the same, however, even though the materials feel a bit cheaper. This router is best set up using the TP-Link Tether app, but you can also access the settings using a web browser. TP-Link's Home Shield software includes solid free parental controls, but more advanced features, like more advanced parental controls and DDoS protection, are available for those willing to subscribe and pay. Number 3. Netgear Orbi RB973S. The Netgear Orbi RB973S is a 3-pack mesh kit with a primary router and 2 satellites. It provides Wi-Fi 7 speeds of B27000. This throughput breaks down to 1147 megabits per second at 2.4 GHz, 5765 megabits per second at 5 GHz, and 11,530 megabits per second at 6 GHz. There's another 8,647 megabits per second of capacity at 5 GHz, as a dedicated backhaul which connects the mesh nodes. Orbee mesh systems utilize a primary router and satellite nodes. The router and nodes all support B27,000 speeds, but the router has more wired connections. Two 10 gigabits per second Ethernet ports and four 2.5 gigabits per second Ethernet ports. On the satellites, you get a single 10 gigabits per second Ethernet port and two 2.5 gigabits per second ports. This is plenty of wired connectivity for most people. Netgear estimates up to 3,300 square feet of coverage out of each node and 10,000 square feet with a 3-pack. In reality, it will be a bit less due to walls, furniture, and other obstacles to wireless signals. You can add more satellites as needed, but they're pricey at $900 each. Netgear makes setup easy using the Orbi app. Most settings are also available via web browser if you prefer. However, you'll need to use the app for Netgear Armor. Armor is a subscription service that comes with tools to help keep your network secure. Unfortunately, that doesn't include the full suite of parental controls, with smart parental controls costing extra. Number 4. TPLink Deco B63. The TPLink Deco B63 is similar to previous Deco generations. TPLink practiced restraint, with the B10,000 wireless connection breaking down to 5,188 megabits per second at 6 GHz, 4,324 megabits per second at 5 GHz, and 574 megabits per second at 2.4 GHz. Like the Archer B550, the 2.4 GHz band sticks with Wi-Fi 6, which is fast enough for your 2.4 GHz tech. Still, with a capable Wi-Fi 7 device, you have plenty of bandwidth for any residential high-speed service. If you're looking at a 10 gigabits per second plan, pick a more capable router. But if your internet speeds are 2.5 gigabits per second or less, the Deco B63 is a solid pick. Each node sports four 2.5 gigabits per second Ethernet ports for wired devices. You can also use Ethernet to link nodes with a wired backhaul, which Deco's software will use with wireless capacity for a more robust mesh. This mesh is set up and managed using the Deco app, not a web browser. This may be annoying for some, but the average user will love the simple and intuitive app interface. Home Shield includes some free parental control options like content filtering, but if you want the complete package with features like time scheduling and more in-depth reports, you'll need to subscribe. Number 5. Aerom Max 7. The Aerom Max 7 is one of Amazon's best mesh routers to date. Despite the cooling demands of Wi-Fi 7, the Aerom Max 7 stays cool without fans, so it's dead silent. The router's B20800 wireless bandwidth breaks down to 574 megabits per second. At 2.4 GHz, 8,647 megabits per second at 5 GHz. And 11,530 at 6 GHz. Here again, the 2.4 GHz band uses Wi-Fi 6 instead of Wi-Fi 7. On the back of each router, two 10 gigabits per second Ethernet ports and two 2.5 gigabits per second Ethernet ports are available for your incoming connection or to connect devices. There is a USB-C port, but it's only for power, so there's no support for USB storage. One thing that was clear when we tested this Aero was how easy the system was to set up and use. The Aero app may feel too simple to advanced users, but if you don't want to spend more than a few minutes setting up your network, the app makes that possible. While most others like Asus, Netgear, and TPLink have more feature-rich apps, Aero's layout makes it easy to find what you're looking for.